to take us a notch higher. Indeed, when I say a notch higher, I mean a notch higher. Because, you know, young people always say that nobody thinks about them. I'm glad that there is a catchment of students here who are going to be listening closely. And some of us who are parents are also here to listen closely to youth engagement, understanding career growth and resilience in the new era, thinking outside the box, a place that has been reserved for a man who is Africa Strategy Advisor, Lancaster University in the United Kingdom, who joined us via a flight yesterday. We're glad that you could make it. Dr. AKANIMO Odon.
Thank you very much. So, Prof has spoken about standing on protocols. I'm going to stand behind protocols because we are the next generation. I've got just 10 minutes. And as I sat down, the performers were performing. And I'm thinking, well, I was speaking about thinking outside the box today. And I'm thinking, if putting a ladder on your lip and balancing it is not thinking outside the box, I wonder what else is. But having said that, though, I think I'm getting a little tired and frustrated because many people think outside the box, but they still live in the box. I'll say it again. Many people think outside the box, but by their actions and activities, they still live in the box. So I'm hoping that after 10 minutes today, I might be able, in some sense or form, get you thinking outside the box, but deciding to live outside the box, because therein lies the success in your career. Okay. So we have a problem. We do have a problem. And what is this problem? So between the year 2000 and 2014, 14 years gap, the number of enrollment into higher education doubled from 100 million to over 207 million. Okay, but follow me. But between 2014 and 2020, only a 6 years interval, the number doubled even more. How come the number has quadrupled in that period? The clear justification for that increase is because of distance learning, online learning. Now, follow me. Before COVID, and obviously COVID has been a principal driver in that increase. Before COVID, okay, in Africa as it is, half of over 420 million young people are either experiencing unemployment or they are variably employed. So bear with me. If before COVID, unemployment was already a crisis, what do you think is happening when the number of enrollment into higher education has doubled? Has it been met by the increase in SME production or creation, as the case is? That's why I'm saying I think we have a problem. Because the numbers of people going to universities, as a matter of fact, you could just sit down at home and finish a full degree in your underwear. But guess what? Environment also provides an opportunity for you to also work remotely. So basically, I'm speaking about the era we now live to engage young people in a different kind of engagement. The problem is not because young people are not engaged. Trust me, they are. Currently, I think a Big Brother is going on. I've never seen such engagement in my life. You wake up in the morning, I mean, a simple test would be, if I ask people in the room now saying, how many of you have looked at Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn today, just on a social sense? I am sure over 90% of everyone in this room has looked at Facebook, Instagram, or whatever the case is today. But if I ask young people, how many of you have visited the top 5 companies doing incredibly well in your field today? What might the response be? So the issue is not the engagement, it's engaging appropriately in respect to development of career spaces. So I talk about positioning. And what do I mean? The concept of a global citizen. And I'm going to ask a very quick question, if I may. But it will give you a context of positioning. Because in the era we live, you can't afford to do the things you were doing before. Things have changed. Okay? So, and the question is this. I'm going to give you two descriptions, A and B. And I'd like people to show by raising your hands which you prefer to be addressed as. Follow me. So A is this. I am an international student or international professional. Just happen to be living in Lagos. That's A. Did you get that? So I am an international student or international professional. I just happen to be living in Lagos. That's A. And B is I am a Nigerian professional. I am a Nigerian student, but I'm just interested in international opportunities. If you would go for A, let me see by show of hands. If you would go for B, let me see by show of hands. Okay, put your hands down. The point I'm making is this, friends. International positioning comes from your mindset. It begins by you understanding that even though you're a student or professional, you're a young person in a particular geographical jurisdiction, you are internationally placed to be able to do interesting things, especially in a virtual era. And the simple things would be like, understand that your role in this space transcends borders and geography. You can speak responsibly. It involves your creativity, flexibility, dedication. Most of the amazing things our speakers and panelists have spoken about today, it begins with the individual. Okay? Understanding self, understanding space, understanding partnerships. Let me speak about partnership for a minute. When last did you hear that a Nigerian graduate finished university and while he's applying for a job, he intentionally applied for jobs in Kenya and Nairobi or jobs in Tanzania? How often does that happen? Are you following me? When last did you hear a Nigerian student who graduated from a university intentionally decide to find partnerships in other jurisdictions? But if you find out on their Facebook account, they've got friends from different countries. But what are you doing with those partnerships in the era we now live? So I tried something. I interviewed about 50 HR directors in African countries. And it was a very simple question. And the question was this. I said, you put up a job interview. And say, for example, you are based in Kenya. And the job interview was for people to come apply for a job in Kenya. And you had a pile of CVs. And as you're flipping through the CV, I mean, basically you would see a Kenyan CV, a Kenyan CV, a Kenyan CV. If all of a sudden you flipped over and you saw a Nigerian CV, what would you do? You know, all of them told me the same thing. That they would take out the CV and put it aside for a minute. Positioning. What is your space like? How are you engaging in this era? Are you engaging with intentionality because you are a global citizen or global professional? Or are you engaging because you are restricted by space and time? Fundamentally. So I will speak about a few practical things because I'm aware that the audience are listening to me, but I'd like you to leave and start living outside the box. Let's begin with a simple premise around CVs. Okay? I was addressing a room of about 200 final year students. I won't mention the university. So a few years ago. And midway in the conversation, I asked them, I said, so how many of you have a CV? They were at the beginning of their final year. And they looked at me like I was speaking French. They said, but we haven't finished university yet. Why do we need a CV? Because you want a CV when you're applying for a job. And that showed to me a fundamental flaw. Because a CV as a document is not just if you like to apply for a job. A CV is a physical representation of your capacity and propensity. A CV is a physical representation of your capability and expertise. And so whether you're looking for a job or not, a CV is supposed to be your go-to document, whether you're in year 1, year 2, it doesn't matter. That is your space. So I'll take it a step further. Then I started asking different people. I said, so currently as a professional, how many pages is your CV? And they'll say, well, my CV is like 5 pages. Then I asked them, are you on LinkedIn? They say yes. So how many pages is your CV on LinkedIn? They say, well, maybe 1 page, maybe half a page. I said, so let me get this right. The CV gathering dust on your laptop, which nobody sees, is 5 pages. But the CV on the biggest professional network in the world, in a global era and global space, is 1 page. How does that make common sense? Positioning. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago when I actually created my LinkedIn account. And I called myself Nigerian expert. It was nice. Okay? And guess what? Everybody that was contacting me were Nigerians, asking me about Nigeria, about jobs in Nigeria. So one morning I woke up and I said, I'm sure I can be called African expert. Obviously, to do that, I should know a bit about Africa. So I changed my nomenclature from Nigerian expert to African expert. Go on my LinkedIn page, you'll see it. And guess what? In a space of 2 to 3 weeks, I was getting requests from Kenya, from Tanzania, from Uganda, just by a change of nomenclature because of my understanding of global positioning. Understanding yourself. Let me speak about that for a minute. What is self? So I've interviewed over 1,000 students across over 20 countries in Africa, and it's a very simple premise. Every student or young person studying in any university, doing a course they like, the chances are, if you ask them, I can ask people in the room now, you would also have something you love doing that has no link with your course. So for example, I was studying zoology at the University of Benin, several years ago. But in my year 1, I knew I loved writing. Writing came easy to me. Can you believe that I loved writing so much, but for 4 years in the University of Benin, just because I was in the zoology department, I never visited the English and literature department, not even once, in 4 years. Think about that for a minute. I interviewed over 200 professionals. Follow me. This is very important. Because it's about engagement. But it begins with global perception and your understanding of self and space. I interviewed about 200 professionals a few years ago. And these are professionals who own a small SME. Are you following me? And it's a very simple question. And the questions were, how many of you SME owners set up your SME based on your course of study? Only 5% raised up their hands. Then I asked them, how many of you set up your SME based on a passion or an interest or that you love doing? And over 80% of them was the case. Then I asked them the real crucial question. I said, how many of you have gone ahead to develop your capacity by learning or some courses to develop that area you set up your SME on? And the number dropped back to 5%. What does that mean? It means that as an individual, understanding yourself means understanding what you love doing. Because in careers, and this is very true, in careers ultimately is about what you enjoy and love doing. And if circumstances have made it such that you are studying a course you don't really like, can you find some time during the 4 years of your university engaging in areas that you love? You know, I checked, and there is no regulation in any university in the world that precludes a student or young person from going to sit down in a class different from this actual course of study. So if I knew this then, I should have been going to the Department of English and Literature just to increase my capacity and engagement on something that already comes naturally to me. Now I get paid a lot of money just to write, even though my PhD was in environmental management. Space and time is the world we live. So, write your CV. Increase your network. Tell yourself today that when you get home, I want to update my LinkedIn profile just for some repositioning. It will take you 5 minutes. Copy and paste your CV. That's what it is. 5 minutes to reposition yourself. You know, I always tell people, I said, if you contact somebody today for engagement, doesn't matter what it is, what is the first thing the person will do if the person hasn't met you before? If you reach out to somebody today for an engagement, what is the first thing they will do if they haven't met you before? They will Google you. So what do? I Google myself before somebody else Googles me. So if you Google yourself, what would Google have epilepsy looking for you? Will Google look for you everywhere, and at the end of it, Google says, did you mean this other person? If that is the case, then we have a problem. Because we live in a virtual space. Those companies you are trying to apply for a job to, what do you think they are doing? They've got Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts. Are they stupid? So you better move and move quick to be able to engage, because it's about positioning your knowledge in this space. If everybody listening to me right now, mobile phones, and go on Google, it's very simple. And I tell students this. You are doing a course in zoology, but you love writing. Google free courses in writing. You would be amazed at the number you would see. It's about intentionality, because we live in a globally connected world. It's about how are you positioned in this space. Increase your knowledge. Learn outside the box. Live outside the box. And I'll finish with this. Volunteering. If you meet employers will tell you that one of the biggest challenges they face for students is lack of work experience. Okay? Biggest challenge. And for me, I've come to discover that a singular principal crisis or challenge we have for unemployability in African institutions, whether you like it or not, is the gap between academia and industry. It's the biggest crisis. I call it the high gate phenomenon. What do I mean? You go to most universities, they've got huge, massive gates. I remember of a university who destroyed an already high gate just to build an even higher one. It's almost as if you're saying, well, don't come to us. There is a disconnect and a gap between academia and industry. So how can you be producing students or young people to go into industry and yet you're not having conversations with them? Because academia says we have knowledge, come to us. Industry says we have money, come to us. Government says we have power, come to us. And as long as nobody goes to the other, nothing happens. It's why we are where we are. But I must say, the onus of your career growth and resilience lies in your hand. It's about what you do with your time. And before you tell me, hey, forget about it, doc, we don't have time, that's a lie. You have time in your hands. You know, I was wandering on my phone one day, and I wandered into screen analytics. You know what that is? And my phone actually tracks me. And my phone told me that week, I spent over 5 hours on WhatsApp. And in some sense, my job, because it's a partnership job, deals on WhatsApp. But my point is this. How can you say there is no time when, as a matter of fact, because of your lack of intentionality, the time allowance you have to create those engagements is not there? Do you know how much time you have in your hands? Young people. Yes, you do have time. How many episodes of Game of Thrones did you watch last week? Do you realize that a match between Manchester and Arsenal is up almost 2 hours? I can go on and on. But your understanding of your global self and space will position you for this new era. Thank you.
Space and time. And when I introduced Dr. Odon as a very engaging person, I didn't miss a bit. He has said that you must find strategies for positioning yourself and offer them to us. He has said you should engage appropriately. You should be a global citizen. You should have a seismic shift in your mindset. And if the algorithms online can't find you, then you are in trouble. So you must use technology to enhance yourself. You must find a way to be involved in understanding yourself and your space and how to push yourself forward. I think this afternoon has been pretty good. He has also mentioned the relationship between the town and the gown, the industry and the academia, and how to bring them together for synergy. Thank you so very much, Dr. Odon, for your engaging presentation. Dr. Odon, ladies and gentlemen.